Get a pen and paper out, write down all your touch points, and give yourself a letter grade on every single one of those touch points and decide, how are we doing? And that's a great way to prioritize, what do I do first? Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. Jordan Barker is actually out on a much-needed vacation, and I am actually going on a much-needed vacation next week. And so I wanted to record a quick episode today to talk a little bit about, we're, I think, 10 or 11 episodes in. What have we learned so far? How has it gone? Want to maybe ask some questions even to our audience to try to get you guys to let us know of anything you'd like to hear us talk about destination marketing, and recap some of the highlights. We've had some amazing guests on the podcast over the last several weeks and months, and we've also reached a big milestone, and that milestone is that we've got 1,500 listens, and we're getting more and more every day. So we joked in a previous podcast that we've got our one confirmed listener, but it's actually proven to really kind of snowball, which means we must be saying something that you guys want to hear. So I want to thank you all for continuing to subscribe, continuing to download the episodes, really for helping us continue to grow as a destination marketing community. And so let's talk a little bit today about some of the highlights that we've seen and some of the episodes that have been particularly interesting. Really, the first episode that we had a guest on, Caitlin Eskelson from the state of Utah, was our first guest. And Caitlin gave us some really good insight about the customer experience. And during the time that we've been doing this podcast, I've actually been able to go visit several destinations across the country that I hadn't been to before, including, Laredo, Texas, Helena, Montana, several other destinations. And the thing that comes to mind as I go to each of these destinations is the customer experience is just so critical. And Caitlin really kind of harped on that when we had her on the show. So I want to talk about the customer experience a little bit today. There is a critical piece of marketing, and that is making sure that the message that you're putting out in front of your audience matches the experience that they will have. And that really, once I listened to Tom Love, who is a member of the advertising community here in Utah, and he spoke about branding, and he said, a brand is the sum of all of the touch points that a brand or a company has with the outside world. So that can be, press releases, that can be social media, that can be your website, that can be a marketing message, that can be, an interview or a YouTube video, or even what happens in the destination. The sum of all those experience is your brand. And I think the real takeaway from that is that you don't get to control the perception of your brand. It's a sum of all of those touch points together. So let's say that someone you have an amazing advertising message, right? And someone comes to your destination, experiences it, and they walk into the hotel and they say, "Oh man, I'm so excited to be here. What is there to do here?" to the person at the front desk of the hotel. And the person goes, "Oh man, there's nothing to do here." Even though everything was great, the advertising was great, the website was great, the booking of the activities that they were going to do while they were there was great, the restaurant experience may have been great, but the person at the front desk said, "Oh, there's nothing to do here." That is a touch point that you could not necessarily control. And so as we think about a destination brand, so many people think that is just the marketing component. That is just the advertising message that I put out there. And one of the most important things one of the most important touch points that you have and that you have control over is your website. And from a messaging standpoint and from a visual standpoint, we see a lot of destinations who either haven't taken new photography in years, and so there's people wearing old clothes on the website, or there's copy that's no longer relevant to the jargon that your personas, your target personas are using. the whole point of your website is to give someone a little taste of what that experience is going to be like. It's a critical touch point. And, a lot of destinations will build a website and leave it for 5 years, 5 years, and not overhaul the design and not update the photos and not update the content. It's kind of set it and forget it sometimes, right? Because it's expensive. It's expensive to redo your website or to refresh your website. It's expensive to get photography. It's expensive to do a lot of those things. It's expensive to integrate new technology into your website and software that's out there. But it is so critical to make that website an example or a taste of the experience that they're going to have in your destination. And really, I just, as you can tell, I really enjoyed hearing Caitlin Eskelson from the state of Utah. She was talking about the customer experience and the importance of that and making sure that your message matches the experience. So if I'm a destination and I hear that, what I'm going to try to do is make a list of all the touch points of my brand that are under my control. So that's my advertising messages, my website, my social media platforms, my press releases and other PR activities that are out there, influencers that may be talking about my destination. And then I'm looking at wayfinding signs in the destination. Fallon Owens, another big highlight of our podcast so far is Fallon Owens from Garfield County talked a lot about making sure that the customer service within your destination is on point. That the person at the front desk of the hotel knows what the heck there is to do in your destination. That the waiter at the restaurant, in fact, Fallon talked about how she was a waiter at one point in time and people would ask her what there is to do and she's like, I don't know, And really that kind of inspired her to build out a customer service training for her destination. So that's another touch point that maybe not every destination is recognizing and investing in, but it's part of the sum of your brand, right? It's part of the equation that makes up your brand. And so customer experience, critical. Get a pen and paper out, write down all your touch points and give yourself a letter grade on every single one of those touch points and decide how are we doing. And that's a great way to prioritize, what do I do first? Because there is so much to do as a destination marketer. There's so much to try to solve for. You have to prioritize. And a great way to understand how to do that is making this list. Be honest and give yourself a grade. Don't say, oh, well, yeah, we're a D, but I'm going to write down a B, because that's not going to help you, the visitor, or anyone else. So be honest with yourself. Give yourself a grade on every touch point of your brand. And that's how you'll know how to prioritize what to tackle first. Because guess what? We're going to continue to pump out episodes. We're going to continue to have guests talk about the amazing things that they're doing. And you're like, okay, well, which thing do I implement first? This is a great way to do it. So I hope that each of you will literally take the time to write down what each touch point is, look at it holistically, and say, okay, I'm going to knock down the most important one first. And in most cases, I would say your website is probably priority one. So big highlight. Thanks to Caitlin Eskelson for coming on and educating us a little bit about the customer experience and the importance of that experience to match the advertising message that you're putting out there, because the visitor experience really is what decides if they come back, if they talk about it, if they talk positively about it, because if it's negative, they'll definitely talk about that too. So yeah, that was a big highlight. I think another highlight for me of the podcast so far has been all the different technologies that we've been able to talk about with our guests that we've had on. And, from Mo Parikh, who came on and talked about Bandwango, which is a great way to kind of productize all of the different attractions within a destination and create passes. And it's essentially, okay, I've spent this money to get them to the destination. Now what? Well, Bandwango provides that platform to allow you to direct people within your destination and help them understand what they need to do once they're there. Another technology that we talked about was in our most recent episode with Hope Stokes. She talked about the importance of an attribution software and even said that 35% of her budget is spent on technology tools to help them get a better picture of what's happening as a result of their advertising. And she uses Adara. There's also some other great attribution platforms out there, including Arrivalist, and several others that I'm sure will feature at some point on the show. And really, Hope as a small destination illustrated for us that without visibility into what happens after you run your marketing, if you don't have that visibility, it's very difficult to know if your marketing dollars are working for you effectively. So I would say that one of the biggest trends that we're going to see over the next couple of years in tourism is that people are going to be really focused on attribution. And attribution has been a very difficult thing to solve in the industry for several years because the tourism destination runs the marketing and the hotel collects the revenue, and there's not a great data connection to tie that off. And so Adara and Arrivalist, great places to start. Explore them. If you're a small destination, you still want to get a picture of it for your specific destination and see if it makes sense. We also, another highlight for me, we had Josh Collins on, who used to be at the Franklin, Tennessee Convention and Visitors Bureau and has since moved to the agency side to Street Sense, an agency on the East Coast. And Josh did a really great job of explaining some technologies that have worked really well for him, both on the destination side and then also as he got into an agency helping destinations to continue to market and grow. And Josh talked a little bit about Buffer, which is a great social media platform that he uses for social media listening. We talked a little bit about Meltwater, which we use here at Relic, and the differences maybe between those two platforms. I would say the takeaway for me was that on a smaller budget, Buffer might be a little lower barrier to entry and a little bit more affordable, and Meltwater is a little bit more comprehensive and gives you maybe a few more bells and whistles than Buffer might. But both of those are technologies to check out, and Josh talked a little bit about both of those. I'm really excited because coming up in the next couple of weeks, we actually have, I believe it's the CEO of a company called Bound 360 who will be joining us. And so we'll learn a lot more about that platform here in the coming weeks. But Bound 360 is a technology that allows you to do a couple of very important things. One is that you can A/B test the experience on your website, and what I mean by that is you can show half your audience one experience and the other half the other experience and see which one performs better. You can use this to test what photos to use on your website. You can use it to test your headline on your website, the color of a button. You can use it to test all kinds of different things. And I really recommend that if you're tracking against specific KPIs, which I hope you are, like a brochure download, like a conversion event of some kind, or traffic to your partner hotels, any of those types of things, you A/B test the experience and see which one wins, and then you implement that change and continue to use it as your control and test against it over and over and over again, and it's never done. And then your website gets better and better and better. So love Bound 360 for that. The other thing that it allows you to do is to personalize the experience by geographic location. So for example, I'll use Utah as an example. We have in Garfield County, which is Bryce Canyon country, it's Fallon Owens's destination. We have clients that come from, or visitors that come from Southern California, and that is a completely different visitor than the visitor that comes from Salt Lake City. They come for different reasons. They come for different activities. They come at different times of year. And so what Bound 360 allows you to do is personalize that message so that your Salt Lake City visitor that's not going to spend as much time or money in the destination sees a different experience, a different suggested itinerary, a different message than the Southern California visitor who may stay longer, visit more places within your destination, and really spend more money, right? And that's the objective there. So the ability for Bound 360 to A/B test, to personalize the message depending on geographic location, is something I'm really excited to dive into with their CEO here in a couple of weeks. And so those technologies, I mean, they were really important technologies. And even, I really appreciate Josh turning me on to Bound 360. We're going to be, rolling that out to our clients as a result of those conversations. And so I've definitely learned from this podcast so far and from the guests that we've had on, and I hope that you have too. Another piece of Josh Collins' episode that I thought was so critical was the importance of email marketing and having a great automation tool. We use here at Relic a couple of different platforms based on the needs of our clients. For our smaller clients, and I wouldn't even say smaller clients, but clients with a limited amount of money that they can allocate to email marketing automation, we really like to use Autopilot HQ. Autopilot HQ has the ability to really create nurture programs that can run automatically in the background based on a lead scoring system. And so if people are gravitating towards hiking and maybe biking on your website, Autopilot HQ has the ability to monitor that activity on your website and drop them into an email nurture that will have messages specific to those activities that the people are exploring on your website. So that's one example of what Autopilot HQ has done for our tourism clients. And then HubSpot is another tool that we like to use for tourism email marketing automation. And it's got all the same capabilities, except much more robust, much more bells and whistles on that one as well. And so I think Autopilot HQ and HubSpot are great resources. There are dozens of great email marketing automation platforms out there. I think the key thing to look for there is to make sure that they can run automatically without you having to deploy emails constantly. And if it has that ability for you to create some logic of if someone performs these actions or somebody hits this lead score, then they automatically get dropped into a specific nurture. I think that's when you really start to leverage marketing automation in such a way that's so much more effective than the batch and blast capabilities that you run into with a lot of destinations where they have to push send every time, or they're sending the same message to their entire database and really just not experiencing the success that you could have by using a more sophisticated tool. Another part of marketing automation that I think is so critical is we do so many things as a destination that are top of funnel because of the attribution challenges that exist in the industry. Marketing automation is a unique way for a tourism destination to be able to monitor that activity through the buyer journey. And so I think it is so critical to collect that information so that you can monitor what somebody's activity level is or interest level, or even what types of activities they're interested in. All of those are things that you get to see and leverage by using a sophisticated email marketing automation tool. So if you're doing it halfway with your email marketing automation, or if you're using a MailChimp or a Constant Contact, I would urge you to maybe look around and find one of the dozens of platforms that allow you to go a little deeper, a little more sophisticated, and a little more automated. And I think you'll see great results from that. Another highlight for me was being able to have Lance Syred on from Ruby's Inn. Lance was able to give us a unique perspective because I think, especially as you look at revenue within a destination, the most important partner for a destination is the hotel, because the hotel collects the revenue, and the hotel is the one that can probably give you as a destination the most useful information to help you make decisions, marketing decisions for your destination, and especially in understanding your customer. They interact more with your visitors than anyone else. They see them when they get there, and they see them every day until they leave. And so Lance talking about how hotel partners and destinations can work together to be more effective, I think gave real valuable insight, especially for our listeners that are destination specific, to kind of see it from the other side of the table. He also talked a lot about the challenges and benefits and all of the above that come along with running a family business. And that was some unique insight too, to help us understand some of the challenges that these hotels and restaurants and other family-owned businesses within our destination might be encountering that could be affecting the visitor experience. So that was also a really, really interesting piece of insight that we got from our conversation with Lance. So there have been so many other highlights. I mean, this has really been one of the greatest parts of the last couple of months for me, is to be able to talk to all these amazing people within the industry. And if there's anybody that I haven't mentioned, and maybe I need to make sure I mention, because Natalie from San Juan County gave us some real critical insight as well into into what to do when you've got a giant destination near you and you still have to capitalize on that traffic, generate business to your destination, get these visitors to go to somewhere. Yeah, they might not have all of the infrastructure that Moab has, but what they do have is a unique experience that a lot of people that don't like the crowds of Moab are looking for. And so they've kind of found the insight that they need to be able to attract those people. And I think a lot of us are small destinations with a limited budget that are competing with destinations that are just in a completely other ballpark with the amount of money they have to market themselves. So we really have to be judicious about what makes us different and what our competitive advantages are. And then Leisha Coltharp, she from Uintah County, Utah, talked about how to market in a unique economy. The oil business in her destination has so much of an effect on the hotel occupancy tax. And it's amazing to hear the different ways that she's had to navigate that. And just this last week, I was in Laredo, Texas, and our friends in Laredo, Texas, have had to deal with a similar problem because of the oil and gas industry down there as well. So it's really fun to hear all the different and unique challenges that people have and how the unique ways that they've found to solve them. And those insights, I think, will help all of our listeners, identify problems within their destination and work together to solve them based on the insights we're getting. So if you want to be a guest on the podcast, we would love to have you. We've had lots of different types of people. You don't have to be a certain size destination. You don't have to be, you don't have to be the most tech savvy person in the world. We've had such a variety of people on the podcast, and it has just been a wonderful experience. So please let us know. My personal email it's my business email, but I treat it like my personal email. It's adam@relicagency.com. Let me know if you want to be on the podcast. If you have a unique insight to share, regardless of how insignificant you may feel like it is, I think what we've learned is a lot of our listeners have really benefited from hearing some of the unique solutions that our guests have come up with. So I also want to invite everyone to make sure that you join our LinkedIn and Facebook groups, both of which are called Destination Marketers on each platform. Request access. We'll make sure that you're in the destination marketing industry, and we will approve you, and then we encourage you to, if you're having challenges or questions, or if you found a unique technology or solution, post it in there. Let's continue to grow and develop together as destination marketers. Once again, thanks a lot for joining us today. Sorry that it's just me and I had to bore you the whole time with my own insights, but really excited to continue the podcast, have more guests, and keep feeding information to all of you as much as we can. Thanks and have a good day.